Welcome everyone to Unit Masters Cohort 8. We're in week 4 already, so 50% of our 6 weeks journey is already done. And we spoke about decentralization, Internet of Value, spoke about the blockchain ecosystem from a bird's perspective. And then last week we spoke about consensus and incentive alignment as a result of consensus. And today, we're starting the week with looking deeper into projects, NFTs, DeFis, and DAOs. And we have Remi here. And Remi is experienced in all 3 areas because his projects basically combine both. He's a software, like a computer scientist by training. He's an entrepreneur, founded fintech companies, and now he's working on decentralizing fintechs and in DAOs, as well as on the side doing a lot of really cool NFT projects, one most notably a music NFT project. And I hope that during our next 30 minutes, Remi can share with us the main trends and challenges, opportunities that are in each of these 3 topics. So Remi, the stage is all yours. And as always, everyone, when you have questions, write them into the chat and then we'll pick it up.
All right, cool. Thank you for the intro. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just write them in the chat. I'll try to answer some while I speak, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end anyways, so if we want to go deeper. So I'll try to cover everything in 30 minutes is very difficult. It's not much time to talk about all of it, but I'll try to cover as much as possible. So first I can give a quick intro to myself. So I'm Remi, I'm a computer scientist indeed. I've been in the space since about 2013 when I bought my first Bitcoin. I've then kept being in the space, worked on a little projects here and there. But in 2017, I founded a company, a traditional fintech company, I guess, where we were doing invoice financing, which is a kind of lending. The original goal of the company is how can we help small businesses to get a better access to finance, leveraging newly available data in Europe and blockchain technology. We ended up dropping the blockchain technology simply because it didn't make sense for the use case. So this is, a good lesson. When the company was founded, it was right in the, I assume you somewhat talked or heard about the ICO boom in 2017. We found it like right in the middle of that. So it was very trendy to do blockchain stuff at the time. But if you're a good entrepreneur, you'll know that you shouldn't build technology for the sake of building technology. You should build technology to fix the problem, and blockchain just wasn't fixing our problem. So we dropped the blockchain aspect of it. I've been personally keeping in the space and helping other teams, but never professionally. That first company that I built, I ended up selling it about a year and a half ago, and then right now I'm working on a new project. We started about 9 months ago. We did a fundraise. We closed a fundraise about 4 months ago, and the new project is called Aluo. So I can write in the chat because I know that depending on where you're from, it might not be obvious what the spelling is. So Aluo is the goal of Aluo is to bring DeFi, decentralized finance, to the masses in a non-custodial and easy way. So I know this sounds very generic, but if you think about it in brief, Aluo is 2 things. It's a mobile app that is non-custodial, so we don't hold the funds of the users. The funds of the users are held on the wallet, on the phone, and that looks just like any neobank. So it looks very much like like any other banking app. No mention of blockchain, no mention of any of that. The idea is to keep it straightforward and easy for anybody to use. I always use the phrase of, if my mom can use it, then I've achieved what I wanted to do. And then the second part of it is a protocol that is managed by a DAO. And the protocol basically invests the funds, the deposits that come in via the app into different DeFi products. Again, in a fully decentralized and trustless way. So the app promises an APY. It's at the moment it's 8%, so 8% interest on your money. The protocol, the whole goal of the DAO is to administer the protocol in a way that we can reach that 8% and make more. So today we make between 20 and 25% of interest. We give 8% to the app, and the rest of it is used by the DAO, to redistribute profits to everybody who are token holders in the Allo DAO. So that's briefly what I do. You've mentioned a few projects that I've been involved in outside the DeFi space. So she mentioned an NFT project that I recently did. I'm working on another one now. So the original NFT project that I did was a one-of-one NFT. So it's really a collectible. It's not. There's a big difference between collections of NFTs. So the big classics are Bored Apes and cyberpunks and stuff like that. All of those are what you call collections. So they are NFTs that all have traits. And within a collection, you have, Bored Apes are 10,000. 10,000 of them, I don't remember how many CryptoPunks are there, but I think it's around 10,000 as well. So that's one kind of NFTs. The kind that I worked on was a different kind, which is one-of-one collectible NFT. We worked with a Russian composer, a classical music composer called Ante Lubchenko. He produced 3 pieces of music. And then the idea, he wanted to distribute these pieces of music in a bit of an innovative way, without having to go through, traditional producers and stuff like that. And so we recorded his music with the Russian orchestra, and then philanthropy orchestra, and then we minted an NFT that holds those 3 pieces of music. It holds the piece of music, it holds a copy of the music sheet that he wrote. And the idea is to sell this music at auction in one of the big auction houses in the world. I can't say the name, but some of the biggest auction houses in the world. And so why is this interesting is because, for Anton, this is a way to go directly to his audience without having to go through traditional routes with, music producing houses and stuff like that. He can directly sell his art to collectors. He can also, because it's a one-of-one, it's a bit of a special piece of music. It's very interesting to know who owns it, or where the music goes at any one point. And obviously it's very interesting for him to know that his music will live forever because it's recorded on IPFS. So as long as it's played, it will live forever. So just to be clear here, I mentioned IPFS. I don't know if you guys have heard of IPFS or talked about it yet. So most NFTs are really split in 2 parts. There's the token, which lives on chain, which is what you call the NFT. Most tokens today follow a standard called ERC 721. So I will write it in the chat. I recommend having a look at what an ERC 721 is, but that's if you hear NFT or ERC 721 on the Ethereum blockchain, it's the same thing. So that's one part. The token is really code. So there's no, there's no what we call metadata in it. So you don't store a picture, or you don't store music, or you don't store a name or anything like that in the token. It's just a piece of code that defines the different functionality of the token. So, can we send it to someone? If we send it, does the money get split between people? That sort of stuff. That's what's stored in the token, is the logic of what an NFT is. And then you have another piece of what an NFT is the storage of the metadata. Most NFTs today use a technology called IPFS. IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. So what it is, it's a way to store data in a decentralized way, to store metadata in a decentralized way. So think about the picture. In our case, for the NFT that we did with Anton, the actual piece of music is stored on IPFS. So why do we need two? A lot of people ask me, okay, why can't you just store it in the contract? In the smart contract that makes the NFT. The logical part is because there are really two different systems that are optimized for two different things. So on the contract is optimized to do what we call computations, so to run code and run fast and efficient, but not so much to store data. IPFS is optimized to store data and not to run logic. So there are two different systems. You need both to build an NFT. IPFS, and then how do we link the two? It's very simple. You do similar than when you send a link to a website. We store the link for the IPFS file into the smart contract, into the NFT. So that's usually where NFTs are composed of. I'm working on another project, which is a new kind of NFT, which is, in my opinion, where NFTs are really become something a bit more than just a collectible. It's NFTs that what's called autonomous NFTs that evolve over time. So if you think about it, what we did with Anton is cool. It's a way, to prove ownership of his music and his piece of music, and because he's a famous composer and his music is exceptional. A lot of people are interested in that, but ultimately there's not much difference between that and owning a certificate that says that you own his music. It's more efficient because it's on chain and all of that, but ultimately there's not much difference. What we can't do in the real world is have art that evolves over time as different users or different events happen. So to give you an idea, imagine if you own the Picasso and the Picasso changes as it moves from one user to another. So as you sell your Picasso, the next person has a different, the painting changes. And you can do that with NFTs because, again, it's all computer code. So the way it works is in the smart contract, the first piece of the NFT that I talked about that is stored on chain, you write algorithms that will be triggered every time there's a sell of the NFT. So these are called autonomous NFTs. I assume people understand what I mean by autonomous NFTs. They evolve over time. So this is I guess a more advanced NFTs. It's maybe newer NFTs. What's the trend for last year was much more guided towards the one-of-ones, like I did with Anton, or profile pictures NFTs, like CryptoPunk, sorry, and Bored Apes. Those are what you call profile picture NFTs. Hopefully 2022 will be moving towards this new trend of a new kind of NFTs that really are something special that can only be done on a computer-based system rather than just replicating what we can do in real life. So that's briefly about NFT. I can briefly chat about DAOs and what, at least my DAO, and what we're building, how we're building our DAO, and why it's important that we have a DAO rather than a traditional company. So I built a traditional company in the finance space. The company when I left was 430 people. We had a full-on banking license and shareholders and all of that. I know very well how the system traditionally works. The big flaw with the system is ultimately the decision makers are the subset of people. And yes, by following game theory, this subset of people should be the best, and therefore should be the better ones making the decisions. But in reality, it's not really like that. It's much more about politics than anything else. So building a financial application like DAO, like Haluo, using a DAO rather than with a traditional company setup, allows us to really democratize the governance process. So in the sense that anybody on the internet can buy a token, can buy our token, and can have an equal voting share into how the project is managed. So the project is managed is more than just, what do we build next? It's also where the money goes. It's also, who is rewarded for doing what. It's a bunch of things that any sort of company / organization have to vote on. There are, and so the way why, in my opinion, this is better is because this is truly democratic. As long as you can, as long as you participate, as long as you as you make yourself useful for the community by default, will try to reward you because they see that you're doing good for the project. If you're not doing good, similar way, you'll be slashed and you'll lose your voting power. But in a fully democratic way. So to give you an idea, today in our first funding round, we raised $5 million to build this project. The $5 million were fully on chain, so we raised using stablecoins. So stablecoins are cryptocurrencies that they're pegged one-to-one with a fiat currency. So most of the ones we raised was pegged one-to-one with the US dollar, but there are other stablecoins that are pegged with other fiat currencies. And so why this is useful is because we don't need a bank account. We need an Ethereum wallet, and that's about it. And we raised $5 million. But so I'm getting to the point where the money is in a multi-sig wallet, a wallet that needs multiple signatures to unlock, and the signatures are controlled by the DAO, so controlled by all the people who own an Alua token. And so today, even if I wanted to pay myself a very big bonus because I feel like the company is doing well, I physically couldn't. There is no way for me to take the money out, even if I wanted to. And so, in a way, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot because I'm doing a lot of work and I feel like I should be paid more. But in a way, I'm letting the community decide that for themselves. And so it's awesome. To give you another example, today we have about 11 people that we call core contributors. So people who are paid by the DAO for contributing. And then we have, so these are known core contributors, like we know their names and all of that. But we also have 3 people who we have no idea who they are. They are anonymous and they contribute to the project in various ways, either by producing marketing content. We have one guy that produces code, but we have no idea who they are. And because they've contributed enough, the community has agreed that these people should be paid, should be rewarded for their work, because nobody should work for free. And they just get paid for just for just working, but nobody needs to know who they are. So for me, this is super interesting because this is, it removes any sort of bias, any sort of preconceptions that you could have on anyone. They do work, they do good work, they get paid for doing good work, and the community decides. I'm just reading through quickly the questions, but how can DAOs, how can it be equal? I have to buy a token in order to join, so I can buy more tokens. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. You do have to buy tokens. However, a token today, so first of all, a token price is very small. So I mean, one Alua token is today is $0.125 US, so like 10 cents. So the barrier of entry there is very small. Obviously, because you have one token, you'll have way less voting power. If we do one vote, one token, then you're somebody that has a lot of tokens. However, there are different voting systems, particularly what we're employing is called Quadratic Voting, whereby it's not so much how many votes, it's not so much how many tokens. The more tokens you have, the least your vote is worth compared to somebody that has few tokens. So I don't want to quadratic voting. I don't want to get into too much details on how quadratic voting goes because that's quite complicated math. But I invite you to read. There's a white paper that was written by Vitalik. If you like math, it's interesting to read. But if you don't like math, I think there's easier explainer videos. Quadratic voting, whereby what you have to remember is the output of it is that it's not so much about how much vote you have, it's more about how many people you can rally behind your idea. So it's not so much about, the quantum is more about the quantum of tokens, it's more about how many people vote for that thing. So yes, you do have to buy your tokens, but tokens are very cheap. And on top of that, another way we incentivize people, to give you an example, the guy who I mentioned at the beginning, who contributes, guy or girl, actually, I don't know, who contributes code to the project anonymously, he never bought any token. He was given token by the DAO. So the DAO voted to give this guy token because the DAO believed that he was doing decent work and he was an asset to the community. So you don't necessarily have to buy tokens, to be valued into a project. On our Discord channel today, we have about 1,000 people. Out of the 1,000 people, there's probably 10 or 20 like very active members outside the core contributors, and these people are don't hold any tokens. They're just active in the community. I suspect that over time, they'll be rewarded by airdrops, or they'll be given some tokens by the DAO for the work that they're doing, being part of the community. It can be equal if it's architected in the right way. This opens up. It's 24 already. Okay, so I only have 5 minutes left.
Fine, Remi, take your time. We have the time blocked for 45.
Okay. So I just wanted to touch on one last thing before we open up for Q&As. It's interesting. I lost my train of thoughts though. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept to build a project like this from my perspective, from a founder, because I'm building a project. I'm betting on the community. I'm betting for the communities to reward me for my work, but I haven't given myself, I didn't decide for myself to earn that many tokens, sort of thing. I'm hoping that, by my hard work, the community will reward me over time. And it's a very different way to think about it than when you build a traditional company, because when you build a traditional company, you architect everything in a way that people can't take away your money. When you build a DAO, you're building everything in a way where you hope that people will give you enough money, sort of thing. You see what I mean? It's rather than guarding what you're building for yourself, you're hoping that people will reward you. So it's a very different way to build a project, very different way to think about building a company or an organization. But yeah, hopefully it's the future of working. Hopefully it's a better way to do things. But it's very much all an experiment still at this stage. So I think the biggest DAOs are MakerDAO and some investment DAOs. They're still very much changing and experimenting and finding better ways to do governance. But yeah, very interesting journey. You gave him or her only one token? No, not one token. They were given some tokens. I don't know the exact quantum of it, but they were given some token for free for what it was voted by the DAO, how much they were given. A true democratic process. What is the contract address of the Allure token? I'll post it in the chat afterwards. I don't know it on top of my head. Yeah, I'll post it in the chat. I'll read the questions above about NFT. I didn't get the difference between an autonomous NFT and a one-of-ones and a profile. Okay. They're all smart contracts which run autonomous or not. Right. Good question. That wasn't clear. So an NFT, an autonomous NFT is an NFT that can evolve over time on its own. That's what it means. They're all autonomous in the sense that they're all running on the blockchain in a decentralized manner. But if you look at a CryptoPunk was minted in a way, so it has a hat and glasses and red hair, and that doesn't change. The CryptoPunk will stay like that forever. An autonomous NFT will be able to react to event on its own. So if you think about a CryptoPunk, if we were to build CryptoPunks in an autonomous way, as I sell the CryptoPunk from me to you, his hair color might change to green, something like that. And you can program that to be okay if it's sold at a very high price. I don't know, a rocket ship appears behind him or something like that. So the point is that it's autonomous because it evolves over time on its own. So that's the difference between an autonomous NFT and any other NFTs.
Maybe Remi, I think this is too fast for us. If you could lay out, how basically in very easy to understand way, how a smart contract executes a certain logic, like, what are different types of functions that a smart contract does, and where are the current limitations, and then why basically this autonomous, innovation is so radical.
So a smart contract can run function. There's no typical functions. That's hard to say because you can build whatever you want as a computer scientist. But the traditional functions are transfer from, get the metadata, that sort of stuff. An autonomous NFT will be transfer, and then within the transfer function you'll have, if the price is higher than this, change your hair color to a random hair color, for example. That would be the innovation. I know it sounds very trivial, but to write the code to do this is actually quite complex. So that's the difference. Thank you. Now it's clear. All right, cool. I'm glad that was clear. How can we imagine voting in reality? How are holders activated? Does that happen from intrinsic motivation? I'm not sure I understand the question. I'll try to answer anyways. So voting, if you want to look at a voting platform, like how does voting actually work, I recommend you to check Snapshot. I think it's .io. I'm not sure if it's .io or .com. .org. It's snapshot.org. So snapshot.org is an interface that allows token holders in various projects to vote into different DAOs. So if you go on the homepage of Snapshot, you see a bunch of big DAOs at the top. So ENS, Gitcoins, Aave, Sushi, Uniswap, all of those are DAOs. You can see how many members, and you can join one of those. If you join one of those, you will see that they come up with. You'll see that they'll come up, a bunch of the projects will come up with proposals, and then token holders are able to vote on these proposals. So proposals can be anything. So for example, should we pay Remi his salary this month? That could be a proposal. And so the community decides yes or no. So yeah, that's how votes actually happen. So if one holds for a long time and nothing has changed, as it was not triggered through a sell, then the NFT might be worth more. So it's very hard to say if the NFT is worth more or not. The NFT is worth more according to however much the person on the other side is willing to pay. So there is no intrinsic value in an NFT. It's not like an NFT becomes more valuable because it's old. An NFT becomes more valuable because somebody on the other side thinks it's more valuable. That's really it. If you think about it, why is old wine more expensive than young wine in general? Simply because some person thinks it tastes better, but another person might think that it doesn't taste better. So is it worth more or not? I don't know. So maybe the answer, Daniela, to your question, maybe an NFT will be worth more because it doesn't change, but maybe not as well. It depends on how the other person on the other side that is buying your NFT feels about it. Okay, how do you see DAOs and regulation work in the future? Also, if you could throw some light on what's the biggest limitation of DAOs in your opinion? Right, this is this is a very hard question. So I can give you an example of my DAO and regulators. So obviously we're in the financial world. So, it's a very regulated environment, and there's organization managed by governments, in everywhere in the world that try to regulate the space. In the UK, the regulator is called the FCA. I don't remember what FCA stands for. So I worked with the FCA a lot in my first company because we were a normal company and we had a banking license, so we had to talk to the FCA a lot. So when I started thinking about Aluo and writing down some stuff, we went to see the FCA. And we asked them a question. We're like, okay, this is how we want to do this thing. We're going to have basically token holders all over the world that are going to decide on where the money goes, all of that, everything that I explained earlier. And the answer from the FCA, and I wish I recorded it, but I couldn't, was, oh, well, we don't know how to deal with you. That was literally the words from the FCA. And so you see, at that point, it's very hard to know, Financial Conduct Authority, that's the one. It's very hard to know where that's going to go. If you think about it, DAOs are a huge threat to the FCA and to other centralized government organizations. So it could go either way, in my opinion. Either they adapt and they try to work with people like us who want to work with them and with other DAOs, and they try to build frameworks around it, even though I don't know how they would do that. Or they try to go against it. If they go against it, in my opinion, they're just going to shoot themselves in the foot, because our limits are the internet, and we're not limited to England or to Europe or to the US or whatever it might be. So I think they'll shoot themselves in the foot. But today there's very little indication from either the US government, so the SEC, or even the EU on where DAOs are going to sit. There was some attempt in some states in the US to regulate DAOs, and I had this conversation actually with somebody from UNIT as well on could DAOs become normal companies, sort of thing. But in my point, it sort of defeats the purpose. You cannot build a normal company where you have shareholders all over the world. That some of them are anonymous, some of them are not. Like, it just doesn't work. So yeah, I think we'll have to find a better way to do this. Okay, does a DAO need to have a location for tax purposes and regulation? So DAOs are not regulated, Andrew. DAOs are not regulated today. No government in the world has said how we were supposed to do it as part of a DAO. The way most DAOs do today is they have the DAO that controls the funds, controls the governance, controls everything basically that is important. And then to interact with the centralized world, to interact with, I don't know, paying for some people with real money, or to pay for a domain name or something like that. Most people have what you call a foundation, and the foundation is contracted by the DAO, if you want. So when the DAO decides something, we're going to buy a new website.com. The DAO sends money to the foundation on chain, and then the foundation converts it to real money, and then the foundation spends that money to do that. It's an interesting model because the DAO could have multiple foundations. So to play a bit competitive game. So you could say, right, the Aluo DAO has a foundation in England who takes care of, I don't know, whatever it might be, buying the websites for the .co.uk website. And then we have another foundation there's another foundation that is started by other people in China, let's say, to take care of the Chinese market. And so those two foundations would be competing with each other for the DAO's approval, sort of thing. So yeah.
Remi, I think we have one more question. I really love that question. Like, where do I actually start to found a DAO? Do I need a dApp, or what do I do? That's an interesting question.
I think the first thing that you should do is make sure you know what you want your DAO to do. So that's the first thing. What is your DAO actually going to do? If it's is it a DAO between friends to decide what next night out to go to, or is it a DAO that builds some sort of social project, whatever it might be? So that's the first question. If you want it, within DAOs, there's multiple elements. There's the governance, so the voting, I vote yes, you vote no. There's also the storing of the money. So where's the DAO's money stored at? And so you have different tools for all of this. My preferred tools to do this, to do these two different things, are Snapshot for the voting, but there are others. Maybe Yep, I'll send you a link with like a few, and then we can send it in the group or something. And then to manage the money, to manage the funds of the DAO, if your DAO needs funds, I'd recommend Gnosis, Gnosis Safe, which is a multi-sig wallet that can be managed by a DAO. So these are the first things I would look at, Snapshot to make your votes, and then Gnosis to manage your money.
DAO is like a full discipline. So remember, we had this ecosystem map about DAOs, and then you see all the different players that provide solutions to solve a DAO's needs. It's not as simple as just go up and found a DAO, but we do have some workshop material also from previous cohorts, so I can share that in the chat. What I'll do now is actually opening up a breakout room for 6 minutes only, and we have 4 rooms. One is the Remi room. So that's the place where you can go and ask Remi direct questions. And then we have the unit room, that's where I'll be, Anchor will be. We have the artist room, if we have artists here who want to just exchange about their experience and their projects, and the no theme room. So you can just go in there. And ideally, you also share a little bit about, what are the big questions that you currently have in mind, so we can accelerate or deepen also our learning journey.
But who making a decision at your DAO in which projects you invest?
The token holders. So people who hold token. Really? So we do proposals weekly. There's proposals. Any token holder can submit a proposal on where to invest the money. And then token holders can decide where the money is invested. So again, fully democratic. It's not me who decides in my little house in Rwanda where the money goes.
Time to final statement, so we can officially wrap up the session, and then we leave the room open for those who want to have more questions with Remi. So Remi, thank you very much for running us through how NFTs work and how DAOs work, and what we can expect actually for the future in both areas. And maybe just share with us what you think the audience should take away from the session, 1 or 2 things.
Okay. On the DeFi side, so the decentralized finance side, I would say that there's no coming back. This is the only way that finance can evolve, and regulators or not, I think we will get there. It's just a matter of how quickly. So that's the one thing on the DeFi side. On the DAO side, I would say that we're very much still in experimentation phase. So no DAO today has found the secret recipe and the best way to manage a DAO. So I encourage everyone here to take part in DAOs, even if you in your spare time or whatever. You don't have to put all your life savings in it. Just take part in it, join Discord channels, and help the general blockchain community to experiment. It's often the smallest voices that are that bring out the best ideas, because so that's on the DAO side. We're very much still at the beginning of how governance will work. And on the NFT side, be careful on where you put your money. There is hundreds of thousands of NFTs today, and there's not much intrinsic value in most of these projects. Not everyone can be an art collector. It's the same with NFTs. It's not because it's easy to buy that you should spend thousands of it. I have one NFT, and just because I wanted to see what it was like to buy one, and that's it. So yeah, so it would be, yeah, that's the 3 points, I guess.
Thank you so much for joining us at Unit Masters and mentoring our students.